Askreddit thread. Which statement, although 100% true, still causes controversy every time it is said? Some people do not have a learning disability. They are just dumb. Or lazy. Lack of desire to learn isn't a learning disability. I'm smart but lazy. I would have done this if I wanted to. Doesn't matter what you can do, only what you do. You said do. Ha, that's poop. I'm actually a genius, but my parents told me I was smart, so I failed out of school. Every loser on Reddit. Alright, so for everyone saying they're the same, a learning disability is a result of a physical or chemical imbalance, and you have it for your whole life. Being dumb is a result of not having the background information you should because of circumstances or paying attention to other things. If you don't know math because your brain makes the numbers move around, that's a learning disability. If you don't know math because you smoked weed instead of studying, you're dumb. Some people do not have difficulty learning. They just have difficulty learning. No, some people are dumb. They can be overcome through extra hard work and studying. Some people have what is now politely termed as a learning disability or developmental holy shit, I can't say this. Developmental disability. Holy shit, why couldn't I say this? Developmental disability. Those people often cannot overcome that through hard work and need to find workarounds. There is a distinct difference between the two. I know I have problems reading words sometimes, like developmental. And when I spell words, sometimes I'll put the letters backwards. I might have dyslexia. I don't know. I had no idea I had any problems until I was already out of high school and spelling stuff on the internet. Reddit is nowhere near as representative of the general public as most of its user base thinks it is. It's a societal bubble, and there's nothing wrong with that as long as you're aware that it is one. Well, duh. I need to remind myself of this every so often. I definitely want to avoid the trap of thinking any more times than I already have that I have a more broad and inclusive worldview because I'm on Reddit. No, you dumbass in the mirror. You just have a broad view of a popular website user base. Don't fool yourself. Well, for those of us who would otherwise not be interacting with people at all, being on Reddit definitely makes our worldview broader than it would otherwise be. Well, that's true. It makes it broader, but it's not really the broadest. You have to remember, a lot of people are just so dumb, and those dumb people usually get downvoted on Reddit, or just don't come to the site at all, because they're too busy being on Facebook and complaining about stupid shit that you've already explained to them. Oh, I was actually just talking about my own personal work experience in customer service. I had no idea how dumb the average person was until that job. I tend to think of it as the major opinions of mostly weathered, moderately liberal men with regular computer access, and everyone smokes weed. That's a better way to describe it. Sorted by controversial. Yikes! For whatever reason, controversial was the suggested sorting method for me. I don't even know why sorting by controversial is a thing. Because people tend to upvote what they agree with, which in threads like this goes against what OP's asking in the first place. I have never seen sorting by controversial actually be helpful. It's just shitty circle jerks and racism. Posts get downvoted for good reasons a lot of times. Yeah, that's exactly why I changed the voting system to best like it usually is. If I'm correct, controversial comments are ones with a large number of up and down votes, hence the controversy around it. Let's see. Girls can't be doctors. They need to be medically trained adults. What? When I first read that, I was like, what the fuck? This guy's so sexist. Girls can't be doctors. They need to be medically trained adults. I don't get it. Abortion is legal in all 50 states, regardless whether or not you personally agree with it. Legal, yes. Safely accessible? No. You should always switch doors after Monty Hall reveals one. Oh, yeah, that parable. The increasing the number of doors 999 version makes the problem far more understandable. Are 997 of the non-winning doors revealed? Yeah, so you choose one of the 997 are removed, leaving you door in the other one. Could someone explain like I'm 5 this problem? You're on a TV show. Okay, actually I can just explain this myself, since I already read it in another Askreddit thread, and it was explained on a episode in an anime I watched a couple weeks ago, maybe a month or two ago. The Monty Hall problem is the problem that you have 3 doors. One of the doors has a prize, 2 of the doors have nothing, or like a bad prize, like a donkey or something. One of the doors will have a car, the other 2 have nothing. So you have door A, B, and C. You pick door A. The host opens door C and shows that there's nothing there. Then he asks you, would you like to change your answer? Since you're still choosing door A, your opponent has only showed you that there's nothing in door C, and it reveals nothing about door A. So you think your chances of opening the door that has a prize are now 50-50, right? Well, the Monty Hall problem actually suggests that you have a higher chance of getting the prize if you switch to door B after the contestant has showed you that door C is empty, which is a huge it's a huge problem, because how is that not 50-50? They just showed you that one of the doors doesn't have it. Isn't it a 50-50 chance? Well, no, actually. You actually have a 2 out of 3 chance of getting it right if you change the doors, and only a 1 out of 3 if you stick to your own, because of the math that works out. So, you have a higher chance of getting the prize if you switch your door to door B. Or, the other one. That's the Monty Hall problem. People debate it like crazy today. But if you're ever in that situation, make sure you change the door, because you have a higher chance of winning. Smoking is bad. Cigarettes, weed, etc. Really, it is completely fine if you admit it and keep doing it, but believing it's not or even good for you is a joke. Yes, it's true that it's inherently less harmful to smoke weed compared to cigarettes, but too many people equate less harmful to being harmless. Ninja, also want to quickly rant that people who think vaping is fine need to look up popcorn lung. Not sure all those juices have chemicals that cause it. But you can never be too careful. Men and women are different. Fair and equal are different. Everyone is different. No 2 people are the same. Why the fuck are people upvoting this? It's a Homestar Runner reference. Stereotyping happens because of pattern recognition, which is how we survive as a species. People on Reddit are incapable of understanding the concept of 100% true. This is 99.9% true. 99.999 repeating, of course. I saw one that said Hillary is not fit to be president. This isn't a fact, it's an opinion, no matter how accurate. Hey, wait a second. You can't just say that. As a Redditor, I know for a fact that any words out of my mouth are always true. Other Redditors have no idea what they're talking about, though. Not sure this one has been said too much, but here goes. Terrorism just really isn't a big threat in the United States, or most Western countries, really. The only reason that people treat it as such a big deal, even when the death toll pales in comparison to road deaths, gun crime, etc., is because it scares people. It works. I imagine 9/11 had the exact effect intended, to undermine the famous freedom of the U.S. I kind of understand what you mean, but I have to ask what your average yearly death toll is for road tolls. 0.999 is exactly equal to 1. Oh, this is the first I've ever heard of this. It seems counterintuitive, but the easy way for me is to split numbers up 1 into 3s. 1/3 is equal to 0.333, 2/3 is 0.666. 1/3 plus 2/3 equals 1, or 0.9999. You know what? That actually makes a lot of sense. No, it's good if the sums of an infinite series don't converge. Zeno's paradox wouldn't hold true, and we would never touch anything. As a math major who just took real analysis, maybe I could help make a little less angry and perhaps even a bit less scared. No, let's not read that. There is not nearly as much muscle under the layer of fat you've accumulated over the years as you'd like to believe. Okay. This is the best time to be alive so far. That's true. The vast majority of people who are obese are either eating too many calories or not exercising enough. I would probably say it's like a 90-10 thing. 90% of them are just eating too many calories. Exercise, quite frankly, is not that important compared to just eating too much food. Some people on Reddit are very vocal about this not being true, though. The majority of people on Reddit absolutely are vocal about this being true. Edit, here's a picture of your username. What? I will cherish the potato until the end of days. A cereal bus? Universal cereal bus. Okay, that's random. The opportunity to lose weight has never been better with technology like Fitbit and other wearables. The best tip I can give is to start small. I think the reason a lot of people crap out quick is trying to do too much too fast. The other thing I would like to think is cool is you're starting to see online communities like this pop up, which could be a decent alternative to a gym. On the same note, loving yourself also means taking proper care of your body. What do you mean not being true? What can they say? That some people eat the right amount and they still get some weight? That's exactly what they say. Usually using the excuse of metabolism or some other excuse. Genetics. I mean, it is true there are some medical conditions where you're going to gain weight, like, no matter what. But a lot of the people who say they eat correctly don't actually, and are just lying. A lot of people just lie. That's just it. I was like, oh, I watch what I eat, but yet I gain 5 pounds every month. No, you probably don't. You're probably just a huge liar. You might eat correctly in front of other people, but at home you're probably shoving down, I don't know, Twinkies or eating a bag of chips. Those calories add up. There are some things you just can't do no matter how hard you try. Yeah, like twerking. I would call this up to physical things or being a billionaire. I can be a billionaire. It might be a currency that I made up, but I'm still a billionaire. Oh, that's true. You can be a billionaire in like a video game or something. I haven't seen somebody say this yet, so anyone, no matter what, can be racist. Even if an oppressed person says all white people are criminals and therefore I refuse to hire one, that is still being racist, asshat. This is not to be confused with systematic racism, which is how government can favor one race above others. It irks me a little bit when someone calls reverse racism. It's like, no, it's straight up racism. Just because you're saying something racist to a majority of people doesn't make it reverse racism. It's just racism outright. Isn't that just semantics, though? Linguistically, it still seems easier to refer to systematic racism as racism and to refer to racism, the literal definition of the oppressed, of prejudice. Reading that back to myself, it actually sounds less simple. I don't know. I think it's referring to black people can't be racist, or the new term reverse racist that Tumblr has introduced lately. I hate reverse racism. Mainly because a lot of my family is racist, but in the reverse racist sense. I always talk about stuff. I have a very racially diverse family. Of like all races. Well, not all of them, but just a lot. And they always say something racist at everything. Always in like a light-hearted way, though. Like, oh, them white people doing that stuff. It's like, well, that's racist. But I don't say about it because I'm not a party pooper. I think he's referring to, that's what I'm saying, although reverse racism is about as far from being coined by Tumblr as it possibly could be. Astronomer here. We cannot beat entropy, which means the universe will end as a cold and dark place, and there's nothing you can do about it, and nothing you do matters in the universe sense. Hell, most of the stuff you worry about won't matter even 100 years from now because everyone involved will be dead. I mean, I don't dwell on this or anything, but it's amazing how many people can care to argue this point. People argue about entropy? That's probably because we don't have enough magical girls to reverse it. I have a lot of people responding to me that you can't really know that we can't beat entropy or that humanity won't figure something out, etc., etc. I'm glad to see the still causes controversy part of the question is indeed true. Insufficient data for meaningful answer. I need to see if people are going to post something about magical girls. Entropy in the universe works slow. Wasn't there something able to? Your posts are always the best. Heat death is inevitable. Blue, that's a load off my mind. Do people really argue this? I'm trying to see if anyone will make a Magica reference. People made the one last time someone mentioned entropy. There's a genetic component to intelligence. That's a genetic component to every aspect of the human body. Memory, spatial sense, arm length, how many hairs you have in your head, etc. I once had somebody explicitly tell me that intelligence was the one and only aspect of the human body that has zero genetic connection, and anybody who said otherwise was a racist. The truly controversial statement is that the average IQ varies significantly by race. Yeah, that is a pretty controversial statement because it's not really testable. Anytime I try to have a discussion with other people about genetics, this comes up. Every time, someone has to act like intelligence is all about your environment, upbringing, nutrition, etc. It's purely an emotional argument because they don't want to acknowledge that some people are just stupid and some are just smart. And this just makes smart people inherently better than the stupid people, with all the other factors equal. Genetics are a huge part of intelligence, it's just true. But environment is also a big factor of intelligence. But to deny genetics from the equation entirely is ignorant. But then again, you can't have someone who's supposed to be naturally born smart and they just smoke weed instead and they don't do anything. That happens. When they go wrong is where they can conflate ability with the values of a person. People can have different ability but still be valuable human beings. Actually, you know what? I think the real question is, like, how much do genetics play a role in intelligence? Sure, they play a role. But is it a significant one? Does it play a role at all? Well, it obviously does, from all the tests that have been done, but to what degree? Like, if you were Einstein's children, is that going to make you as smart as Einstein? No. But you have the potential to. It's how natural selection works, as a matter of fact. Blah, blah, blah. The Twin Towers fell because of damage sustained by the plane impact and subsequent fires. No additional measures were needed to demolish the buildings. Looks like someone doesn't know about the 9/11 conspiracy theories. I guess my answer is spot on. I don't really feel like debating all of you. Here's a link to debating with some fuckwad I knew a few weeks ago. You can find my opinions there. Which makes the government putting all those explosives in there even worse. Wasting our tax dollars yet again. The terrorism is not exclusive to the religion of Islam. Oh, no shit. People who aren't white can't be racist. Oh, yeah. My family is a prime example of that. I mean, it's not like they're hateful racist or anything, but they do say casually racist stuff all the time. America incarcerates. I remember. Incarcerates. Whatchamacallit. When I got attacked a couple. Was it 2 years ago now? I was attacked on one of my runs once. Like because I used to go running like at 1 or 2 in the morning. Apparently that's a bad idea, but I got like attacked by people who were trying to mug me. I didn't have anything. I came out of it. They had a gun. No one got hurt. I just lost my hat. And the 2 people who did it were 2 black teenagers. And when I was telling the story to my family, my little brother was like, ugh, he said something really racist about black people, and I had to remind him, hey, it could have been anyone. The fact that they were black doesn't mean that all black people are, like that. I was like, ugh, he's still so young. Still so young. We need to curb these ignorant thoughts early. I'm pretty sure I got through to him. I don't remember exactly what I said, but I said something to that effect. Plus, we also have people in our family who are also black. So it's like, that's not true. These are just 2 people who happened to do this to me. Their race had nothing to do with it. America incarcerates more of its citizens per capita than any other country in the world, bar 1, Celsius. They incarcerate 50% more people per capita than Russia. Yeah, I already know that. The fact that they have more people in prison than China is kind of a big deal. Caitlyn Jenner is a horrible person. She's representative to the trans community as much as Donald Trump is representative to conservatives. Trans women who thinks Jenner is an embarrassment. Yeah, I can see that. See, the thing is, Caitlyn Jenner is a trans person, but she hates gay people. So it's like, you know what? Why couldn't you have just been a good person? You're such a famous person coming out. The transgender community already has so many problems. They have the highest rate of suicide of all, LGBT community. I always feel so sad for them. A vote for a third-party candidate is more likely to help the candidate you hate the most. Everyone thinking this way is what keeps third parties out of debates. If they get 10% of the popular vote in the next election cycle, they have to be included in debates, which would be huge for breaking the right versus left rhetoric. There's over 300 million people in our country. It's ridiculous to think they can all be accurately represented by two parties. Vaccines do not cause autism. Vaccines turned me into a newt. I got better. 50% of the people are of average or below average intelligence. I can believe that. I doubt it's true, but I could believe that. ITT, people representing opinions, not 100% true, just facts. And people getting butthurt over the ones that actually are facts. If a PC doesn't do what you want, you gave the wrong input. Software doesn't work 100% of the time. Just look at software gore. Most of the time, it's the user's fault, though. If a blade isn't sharp enough to eversely shade forearm hair, it is dull. This applies to every edge from a kitchen, knives to axes. Abortion can be necessary. Well, duh. Teenagers are stupid, and we give them too much credit for things they don't manage to fuck up. It's been like this for thousands of years. A human with a lifespan of 80 years should not be allowed to make life-changing decisions at 16. Maybe it was not a problem when 16 was nearly half our life, but it's much different now. I think it's smart not to let a 16-year-old make life-changing decisions, but they need to learn to make decisions on their own before they need to make life-changing decisions. I'm a college student, and what I've observed is that the kids who always had their parents tell them what to do and make all the decisions for them tend to struggle for a while. The kids who have had to learn to depend and make their own decisions before college do much better to begin with. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think a 25-year-old person who has never made a decision before will be better off making the decision than a 16-year-old. So let them make the decision when they're young and learn from their mistakes. Ugh. Great words of advice from No, Batman 1. How was that taken already? Science isn't proof that a God exists. Not saying I believe in God, but saying there's no proof that God doesn't exist. Wait, science isn't proof that a God doesn't exist? Science isn't proof that the spaghetti monster doesn't exist either. Isn't this a logical fallacy? Yes. Like, you can't prove he exists, but you also can't prove he doesn't. What's this one called? The overarching fallacy is known as the shifting the burden of proof. Russell's famous teapot argument is an example of this. It is and it isn't. The Russell's teapot analogy isn't perfect, but when people say you can't prove that a deity doesn't exist, they don't mean that means you should just accept it as true. To talk about the teapot, if you make the same rhetoric theoretic claim as Russell, the fact that you can't prove that it doesn't mean it's not there. That doesn't mean that you should assume it's true. I think I read about this in a philosophy class once. There are some legitimate arguments for the existence of some God. True, the fact that you can't prove he doesn't exist isn't enough proof in itself, but it's also really not enough of a proof to say that it doesn't exist. It could exist. Just because there's no proof of it doesn't really mean that it can't exist, but there's a really high chance it probably doesn't exist, but it still can. You should assume it's not true. It's a touchy subject. There can be some smart arguments made for it. I can't remember off the top of my head, though, but I remember reading them and was like, oh, that's not half bad. I still think that's kind of dumb, but I can see their side of the argument. Homosexuality is literally not normal. Read into the statement. I'm speaking to a human instinct to breed and procreate to further populate the human race. It has nothing to do with morals or the size of the population. Tell me someone gets it. Anyone. Gays are about 3% of the population, so a statement is extremely true. True, but homosexuality is in a great many species and serves a big point. Homosexual couples taking orphans that would otherwise die. In all ways, 49.9% of the world isn't normal. There was a Vsauce video about how being completely normal is super abnormal thing in reality. Well, that's true if you go into the literal definition of normal. Actually, 2 dicks touching at a right angle is very normal. Crime rates change among ethnic groups. Crime rates change among neighborhoods, too. Crime rates change among a whole bunch of different kinds of divider lines. Hitler was a fantastic public speaker. Nuclear power is the safest form of power. Go nuclear, go extinct. Looked up the molten salt reactor. That's true. I did a report once on nuclear power in my environmental science class. Turns out it's actually really good. It's just the reason we don't have more nuclear power plants is because of a social stigma that it's going to blow up, which hasn't happened. The only 2 major disasters we've had, one was in Russia during its communist, the top of its communist regime when everything was run really shittily. And even then they were able to contain it to just a city. And that was after they literally did everything possible to fuck that up. And the other one was the 3 Miles Island incident, which they were also able to contain. And there's the only 2 major disasters that have ever happened out of the thousands of nuclear power plants in the world. Because, funny enough, nuclear power plants are heavily, restricted. Not restricted. Watched after. Organized. Damn it, what's the word? I can't think of it right now. Lots of checks and balances. Sure, accidents can happen, but they're not very likely to happen. Vaccinations do not cause autism. Miami Beach is going underwater, both from rising water tables below ground and the encroaching ocean as it rises, due to global warming. Miami Beach. Palestinians aren't getting fair treatment and human rights. The gender pay gap is largely a myth. Evolution is a fact. Deal with it. It's a theory, actually, just like gravity. Yeah, you can't tell me about gravity not existing. I don't believe in it.